Italy is home to some of the oldest wine-producing regions in the world, and Italian wines are known worldwide for their broad variety. Italy, closely followed by France, is the world's largest wine producer by volume. Its contribution is about 45 to 50 million HL per year, and represents about one-third of global production. Italian wine is exported around the world and is also extremely popular in Italy. Italians rank fifth on the world wine consumption list by volume with 42 liters per capita consumption. Grapes are grown in almost every region of the country, and there are more than 1 million vineyards under cultivation. Etruscans and Greek settlers produced wine in Italy before the Romans started their own vineyards in the 2nd century BC. Roman grape growing and winemaking was prolific and well organized, pioneering large-scale production and storage techniques like barrel making and bottling. History. Although vines had been cultivated from the wild Vitis vinifera grape for millennia, it wasn't until the Greek colonization that winemaking flourished. Viticulture was introduced into Sicily and southern Italy by the Mycenaean Greeks, and was well established when the extensive Greek colonization transpired around 800 BC. It was during the Roman defeat of the Carthaginians in the 2nd century BC that Italian wine production began to further flourish. Large-scale, slave-run plantations sprang up in many coastal areas and spread to such an extent that, in AD 92, Emperor Domitian was forced to destroy a great number of vineyards in order to free up fertile land for food production. During this time, viticulture outside of Italy was prohibited under Roman law. Exports to the provinces were reciprocated in exchange for more slaves, especially from Gaul, where trade was intense, according to Pliny. Due to the inhabitants being besotted with Italian wine, drinking it unmixed and without restraint, it was customary to mix wine with a good proportion of water, which may otherwise have been unpalatable, making wine drinking a fundamental part of early Italian life. As the laws on provincial viticulture were relaxed, vast vineyards began to flourish in the rest of Europe, especially Gaul and Hispania. This coincided with the cultivation of new vines, like Bitorica. These vineyards became hugely successful, to the point that Italy ultimately became an import center for provincial wines. Depending on the vintage, modern Italy is the world's largest or second largest wine producer. In 2005, production was about 20% of the global total, second only to France, which produced 26%. In the same year, Italy's share in dollar value of table wine imports into the US was 32%, Australia's was 24%, and France's was 20%. Along with Australia, Italy's market share has rapidly increased in recent years. Italian appellation system. In 1963, the first official Italian system of classification of wines was launched. Since then, several modifications and additions to the legislation have been made, the last of which, in 2010, has established 4 basic categories, which are consistent with the last EU regulation in matter of wine. The categories, from the bottom level to the top one, are Vini. These are wines that can be produced anywhere in the territory of the EU. No indication of geographical origin, of the grape varieties used, or of the vintage is allowed on the label. Vini varietali. These are generic wines that are made either mostly from one kind of authorized, international, grapes or entirely from 2 or more of them. The grape and the vintage can be indicated on the label. Vini IGP. This category is reserved to wines produced in a specific territory within Italy and following a series of specific and precise regulations on authorized varieties, viticultural and vinification practices, organoleptic and chemico-physical characteristics, labeling instructions, etc. Currently there exist 118 IGPs, IGTs. Vini DOP. This category includes 2 subcategories, i.e., Vini DOC and Vini DOCG. DOC wines must have been IGP wines for at least 5 years. They generally come from smaller regions within a certain IGP territory that are particularly vocated for their climatic and geological characteristics and for the quality and originality of the local winemaking traditions. They also must follow stricter production regulations than IGP wines. A DOC wine can be promoted to DOCG if it has been a DOC for at least 10 years. In addition to fulfilling the requisites for DOC wines, before commercialization DOCG wines must pass stricter analyses, including a tasting by a specifically appointed committee. DOCG wines have also demonstrated a superior commercial success. Currently there exist 332 DOCs and 73 DOCGs for a total of 405 DOPs. A number of subcategories also exist regulating the production of sparkling wines. Within the DOP category, Classico is a wine produced in the historically oldest part of the protected territory. Superior is a wine with at least 0.5 more ALC% volume than its correspondent regular DOP wine and produced using a smaller allowed quantity of grapes per hectare, generally yielding a higher quality. Reserva is a wine that has been aged for a minimum period of time, depending on the typology. Sometimes, Classico or Superior are themselves part of the name of the DOP. The Italian Ministry of Agriculture regularly publishes updates to the official classification. It is important to remark that looser regulations do not necessarily correspond to lower quality. In fact, many IGP wines are actually top-level products, mainly due to the special skills of their producers. Unlike France, Italy has never had an official classification of its best crus. Private initiatives like the Comitato Grandi Cru d'Italia and the Istituto del Vino Italiano di Qualità Grandi Marchi each gather a selection of renowned top Italian wine producers in an attempt to unofficially represent the Italian wine excellence. In 2007, the Barbaresco Consorzio was the first to introduce the Menzioni Geographici Charteristics, also known as mega or subzones. There were 65 subzones vineyard areas, with one more approved in 2010 which brought the final number to 66. The main goal was to put official boundaries to some of the most storied crus in order to protect them from unjustified expansion and exploitation. The Barolo Consorzio followed suit in 2010 with 181 mega, of which 170 were vineyard areas and 11 were village designations. Following the introductions of mega for Barbaresco and Barolo, the term vigna can be used on labels after its respective mega and only if the vineyard is within one of the approved official geographic mentions. The official introduction of subzones is strongly advocated by some for different denominations, but so far Barolo and Barbaresco are the only ones to have them. Geographical characteristics. Important wine-relevant geographic characteristics of Italy include: the extensive latitudinal range of the country permits wine growing from the Alps in the north to almost within sight of Africa in the south. The fact that Italy is a peninsula with a long shoreline contributes moderating climate to coastal wine regions. The extensive mountains and foothills provide many altitudes for grape growing and a variety of climate and soil conditions. Italian wine regions. Italy's 20 wine regions correspond to the 20 administrative regions. Understanding of Italian wine becomes clearer with an understanding of the differences between each region. Their cuisines reflect their indigenous wines, and vice versa. The 73 DOCG wines are located in 15 different regions, but most of them are concentrated in Piedmont, Veneto, and Tuscany. Among these are appellations appreciated and sought after by wine lovers around the world. Barolo, Barbaresco, and Brunello di Montalcino. Other notable wines that in the latest years gain much attention in the international markets and among specialists are Amarone della Valpolicella, Prosecco di Conegliano Valdobbiadene, Taurasi from Campania, Franciacorta sparkling wines from Lombardy, evergreen wines are Chianti and Sauve, while new wines from the center and south of Italy are quickly gaining recognition. Sagrantino, Primitivo, Nero d'Avola among others. The Friuli Venezia Giulia is world famous for the quality of her white wines, like Pinot Grigio. Special sweet wines like Passitos and Moscatos, made in different regions, are also famous since old time. The regions are, roughly from northwest to southeast, Aosta Valley, Piemonte, Liguria, Lombardia, Trentino Alto Adige, Sud Tyrol, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Veneto, Emilia-Romagna, Toscana, Marche, Umbria, Lazio, Sardinia, Abruzzo, Molise, Campania, Basilicata, Puglia, Calabria, Sicily. Italian grape varieties. Italy's Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry has documented over 350 grapes and granted them authorized status. There are more than 500 other documented varieties in circulation as well. The following is a list of the most common and important of Italy's many grape varieties. Bianco Arniche, a variety from Piedmont, which has been grown there since the 15th century. Catarrata, common in Sicily. This is the most widely planted white variety in Salaparuta. Fiano, grown on the southwest coast of Italy. Friulano, a variety also known as Sauvignon Vert or Sauvignon Assur. It yields one of the most typical wines of Friuli. The wine was previously known as Tokay, but the name was changed by the EC to avoid confusion with the Tokay dessert wine from Hungary. Garganega, the main grape variety for wines labeled Sauve. This is a dry white wine from the Veneto wine region of Italy. It is popular in northeast Italy around the city of Verona. Currently, there are over 3,500 distinct producers of Sauve. Greco di Tuffor, grown on the southwest coast of Italy. Malvasia bianca, a white variety that occurs throughout Italy with many clones and mutations. Moscato Blanc, grown mainly in Piedmont, it is mainly used in a slightly sparkling, semi-sweet Moscato d'Asti, not to be confused with Moscato Giallo and Moscato Rosa, two Germanic varietals that are grown in Trentino Alto Adige. Nuragus, an ancient Sardinian variety found in southern Sardinia, producing light and tart wines consumed as in aperitifs. Passerina, mainly derives from Passerina grapes, plus a minimum percentage of other white grapes and may be still, sparkling or passito. The still version has an acidic profile, which is typical of these grapes. Pecorino, native to Marche and Abruzzo, it is used in the Fallerio dei Colli Ascalani and Offida DOC wines. It is low-yielding, but will ripen early and at high altitudes. Pecorino wines have a rich, aromatic character. Pigata, an acidic variety from Liguria, the wines are vinified to pair with seafood. Pinot Grigio, a successful commercial grape, its wines are characterized by crispness and cleanness. The wine can range from mild to full-bodied. Ribola Gialla, a Greek variety introduced by the Venetians that now makes its home in Friuli. Trebbiano, this is the most widely planted white varietal in Italy. It is grown throughout the country, with a special focus on the wines from Abruzzo and from Lazio, including Frascati. Trebbiano from producers such as Valentini have been known to age for 15+ years. It is known as Eugène Blanc in France. Verdicchio. This is grown in the areas of Castelli di Jesi and Metellica in the Marche region and gives its name to the varietal white wine made from it. The name comes from verd. The white wines are acidic. Vermentino. This is widely planted in Sardinia and also found in Tuscan and Ligurian coastal districts. The wines are a popular accompaniment to seafood. Other important whites include Caricant, Côte de Volpe, Cortese, Valangina, Grigio, Grillo, Inzolia, Picolet, Traminer, Verduzzo, and Vernaccia. Non-native varieties include Chardonnay, Gewürztraminer, Petit Avena, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, and others. Rosso Aglianico del Vulture. Based on the Aglianico grape produced in the Vulture area of Basilicata, it was recognized as DOC in 1971 and DOCG in 2011. Aglianico, considered the noble varietal of the south, it is primarily grown in Basilicata and Campania. The name is derived from Hellenic, so it is considered a Greek transplant. The fruit is thick-skinned and spicy fruit. Barbera, the most widely grown red wine grape of Piedmont and southern Lombardy, most cultivated around the towns of Asti, Alba, and Pavia. Barbera wines were once considered simply what you drank while waiting for the Barolo to be ready. But with a new generation of winemakers this is no longer the case. The wines are now meticulously vinified. In the Asti region, Barbera grapes are used to make Barbera d'Asti Superior, which may be aged in French barriques to become Nizza, a quality wine aimed at the international market. The vine has bright cherry-colored fruit, and its wine is acidic with a dark color. Corvina, along with the varietals Rondinella and Molendara. This is the principal grape which makes the famous wines of the Veneto, Valpolicella and Amarone. Valpolicella wine has dark cherry fruit and spice. After the grapes undergo passito, the wine is now called Amarone, and is high in alcohol and characterized by raisin, prune, and syrupy fruits. Some Amarones can age for 40-plus years and command spectacular prices. In December 2009, there was celebration when the acclaimed Amarone di Valpolicella was finally awarded its long-sought EOCG status. The same method used for Amarone is used for Ricciotta, the oldest wine produced in this area, but the difference is that Ricciotta is a sweet wine. Dolcetta, a grape that grows alongside Barbera and Nebbiolo in Piedmont. Its name means little sweet one, referring not to the taste of the wine, but the ease in which it grows and makes good wines suitable for everyday drinking. Flavors of Concord grape, wild blackberries, and herbs permeate the wine. Malvasia Nera, red Malvasia varietal from Piedmont, a sweet and perfumed wine, sometimes elaborated in the passito style. Montepulciano, not to be confused with the Tuscan town of Montepulciano, it is most widely planted grape on the opposite coast in Abruzzo. Its wines develop silky plum-like fruit, friendly acidity, and light tannin. More recently, producers have been creating a rich, inky, extracted version of this wine, a sharp contrast to the many inferior bottles produced in the past. Nebbiolo, the most noble of Italy's varieties, a difficult grape variety to cultivate, it produces the most renowned Barolo and Barbaresco, made in the province of Cuneo, along with the lesser-known Sforzito, Inferno and Sicella made in Valtellina, Gemma and Gattinara, made in Vercelli's province. Traditionally produced Barolo can age for 50 years plus, and is regarded by many wine enthusiasts as the greatest wine of Italy. Negromaro. The name literally means black bitter. A widely planted grape with its concentration in the region of Puglia, it is the backbone of the Salice Salentino. Nero d'Avola. This once obscure native varietal of Sicily is gaining attention for its fruit and sweet tannins. The quality of Nero d'Avola has surged in recent years. Primitivo, a red grape planted found in southern Italy, most notably in Apulia. Primitivo ripens early and thrives in warm climates, where it can achieve very high alcohol levels. It is known as Zinfandel in California. Sagrantino, a native of Umbria, it is planted on only 250 hectares, but the wines produced from it are world-renowned. These wines can age for many years. Sangiovese, Italy's claim to fame, the pride of Tuscany. It produces Chianti, Rosso di Montalcino, Brunello di Montalcino, Rosso di Montepulciano, Montefalco Rosso, and many others. Sangiovese is also the backbone in many of the acclaimed, modern-styled, Super Tuscans, where it is blended with Bordeaux varietals and typically aged in French oak barrels, resulting in a wine primed for the international market in the style of a typical California Cabernet, oaky, high alcohol, and a ripe, fruit-forward profile. Other major red varieties are Cananor, Siligallo, Galliopo, Lagrine, Lambrusco, Monaca, Nerello Mascalese, Pignolo, Refosco, Schiava, Schiopettino, Teroldego, and Uva di Troia. International varieties such as Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Syrah are also widely grown.